Hey guys, I'm Esther from Essie Cooks, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make another high protein vegan meal prep. This is going to make 4 meals total with at least 25 grams of protein in each meal, which is amazing. It also tastes so delicious because we're making the tofu with a miso maple glaze, which is the star of the show. We're going to have a bunch of veggies, we're going to add quinoa in there. You're going to have a great balanced lunch or dinner. This is the perfect meal prep. So I'm super excited to show you guys how I make this. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started with the quinoa. So we want 2/3 cup of dry quinoa cooked according to the package instructions. I'm actually making a little bit of extra quinoa here because I needed it for something else, but for the purpose of this meal prep, you just need 2/3 cup of dried quinoa. Usually it's a 2-to-1 ratio, but with my quinoa, it's actually 1 1/4 cups of quinoa to 2 cups water, so just double check on that. Next up, I have 2 bricks of extra firm tofu that I have pressed. Now I actually froze them and de-thawed them ahead of time just to add a little bit of texture. You don't have to do that, it's optional, but I do love to do that with my tofu. And we're going to cut them into cubes. So I'm going to make 3 cuts along each of these so that there's 4 strips. Just because these don't have to be perfectly cut into cubes, but we want them to be fairly even in size. So I'm going to do the same thing with my other brick here because we want them to cook through evenly. Then I'm just going to flip them through and make some cuts on the other side. Again, all pretty equal, all pretty even. I'm just going to be cutting these cubes so that they're pretty much around the same size so that when I cook them, they're going to all cook super evenly. And we want them to be nice and crispy too, so we don't want those pieces to be too big. You can kind of see the size of cubes that I've cut them into there. And now one of the secrets to making the tofu extra crispy is adding a little bit of cornstarch on top, and to give them a little bit of flavor because tofu is fairly bland, we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce. So I'm using a low sodium soy sauce here, 2 tablespoons. If you're gluten-free, you can use tamari or coconut aminos, and then I'm going to use a tablespoon of cornstarch. You can use up to 2 tablespoons if you like. Then you can just mix this around, but I usually just put it in a bowl with a lid. Just give it a nice little shake to mix that cornstarch and soy sauce evenly throughout all those little tofu cubes, and then I'm going to cook it in the air fryer. Now, if you don't have an air fryer, don't worry, you can absolutely cook this tofu in the oven. So that is up to you. The air fryer is just faster. So it's 8 to 10 minutes at 390 in the air fryer or 25 to 30 minutes at 400 degrees in the oven. So if you have the time and you don't have an air fryer, it's totally fine to bake these in the oven. They're still going to get super nice and crispy. Another option, you can pan fry them too. Like, it's totally up to you. Now, halfway through, these are not crispy yet. I have to give them a nice little shake and put them back in the air fryer for another 4 to 5 minutes. And then, of course, to balance up our meal, we need some nice vegetables. So I'm going to get 4 cups of veggies total, roughly. So I've got 1 head of broccoli, I've got 2 bell peppers, and I'm actually going to add in half a cup of baby corn. Now, this is just a recommendation, like whatever vegetables that you have in the house that you think would go good with this, you can go ahead. It doesn't have to be these exact vegetables. It's up to you, your preference, what you have in the house, all the stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the broccoli into nice little bite-sized pieces. I leave the stems nice and long. I don't cut them off because I think they still taste good. I just cut off that little hard bit off the end and then I'm good to go. And I'm going to cut up my bell peppers and, just remove everything from the middle. And again, I'm going to cut these into nice bite-sized pieces. And of course, same thing with this as the tofu. We want everything to be fairly equal in size so that it's going to cook evenly when we go to cook them. So I'm going to start cutting up my bell pepper into nice little pieces there. And just cut those into thirds. I'm going to remove everything out of that red pepper too. Personally, I like the pops of color from the red and the orange pepper, and I think they taste better than green pepper, but you can use anything you want. Like I said, any veggies. So I've got about 4 or 5 cups of veggies there, and I'm just going to cook them in the pan with just a little bit of water to kind of steam them, cook them. Once they are al dente, I can put the fork through them, then they are ready to go. So it doesn't take too long to cook those veggies in a little water. If you want a little more flavor, like you could cook them in a little bit of soy sauce, but I'm actually going to toss them in my sauce later, so I don't want to add too much soy sauce. So I've got a 1/4 cup of low sodium soy sauce or tamari. If you don't use the low sodium one, I find it's just way too salty. So personally, I like to look for that. I've got 1/2 tablespoon of sesame oil, which adds a really nice flavor to the sauce. And I'm going to add in a little bit of sriracha. So this is optional. It's just if you like it spicy. If you don't have that, you can put in a little bit of hot chili powder, some chili flakes. And then I'm going to add in my miso. So I'm going to put 1 heaping tablespoon of miso. I have a lighter colored miso here, but any miso will do. This is just personally my favorite one. This is going to add so much nice flavor to the dish. And then it's maple miso, so of course I'm going to add in my maple syrup. I've got a 1/4 cup of pure maple syrup there, and then I'm just going to start mixing this together. My miso maple sauce. That is a big tongue twister. So I'm going to mix that really well. The miso, you can kind of, press that down. I'm using a bigger mixing bowl here because I need a bit of a splash zone, like things when I'm whisking this up, are splattering and stuff. So you can do this in a smaller bowl, but for me, in order to mix it really well, I just find it easier to mix it up in a little bit of a bigger mixing bowl. So I'm just gonna whisk, whisk, whisk until I have a nice perfect sauce, and that is all mixed. You can see everything's all absorbed. And now I'm going to check on my tofu. So check that out. Those tofu cubes are nice and crispy. So I'm going to pull out a nonstick pan on medium heat. I'm going to add my tofu, and then I'm going to add my sauce. So I've got my beautiful miso maple sauce here. I'm going to cover the tofu. Now, personally, you can leave it like this. You don't have to add your veggies in, but I think it adds a really nice flavor to the veggies to not leave them just plain steamed. It's nice if I can mix them in with the sauce. You want to cook these for a couple minutes until that sauce thickens. So the cornstarch that is on the outside of the tofu is going to help thicken the sauce. So you don't want to skip that because that's what's going to help our sauce thicken up perfectly. Now, I'm going to add in my veggies because I want them to be coated evenly in the sauce, but like I said, that's optional. You can just leave them to the side. And I added in 1/2 cup of baby corn because I just love it. It's so delicious. And now that I've got everything in there and the sauce is nicely starting to thicken, I am just going to start folding in all of those veggies so that they have a little bit of sauce on each piece so we can take advantage of that delicious flavor. So I'm just going to keep mixing that up and coating those up until everything is ready to go. Now, we don't want to leave these in the pan for too long because I don't want to continue cooking them. Like everything's already cooked. It's more just about really evenly coating everything in that delicious sauce. Now, once we have everything cooked up there, we can actually start assembling our meals. It's hard for me to not pick out the baby corn and just eat them right like that because they are my favorite. They are so good. All right, so I've got 4 containers here that I'm going to start filling with all of my ingredients. So I like these glass Pyrex containers. They have lids on them. You can use any 4 containers that are going to fit your meal prep. Now we're going to add in our quinoa, so you can see it's high in protein. It's got a ton of health benefits, but don't worry if you don't have quinoa or don't want to use quinoa. You can use rice instead. You can use brown rice instead. I'm just using quinoa for a little plant diversity and a little extra protein, but I do love rice as well, and this dish is actually really amazing with some rice too. Now I'm going to start adding in my tofu and veggie mixture into each one of these, and look at all the health benefits. We have, fiber and protein, and we've got calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus in tofu too. So you're going to get a lot of benefits from this meal because it's so healthy and delicious. So I'm going to be equally adding them. I'm going to try to distribute the tofu pieces kind of as evenly as possible throughout the 4, but if it's not perfect, it's no big deal to me. It's up to you if you like to have it all perfectly distributed or not. Now I'm going to top it up with all of my remaining veggies. And then for a topping, I'm going to add on some green onions. You can add any fresh herbs you like on top of here. I think green onions go perfectly. They taste so nice on here. And once I add on all those green onions, you can add on any other toppings that you like. Personally, for me, I think sesame seeds go really well on here. And same thing with sesame seeds as quinoa. Like, there are loads of health benefits, and we're getting so much nice plant diversity in here with all these different seeds and everything. So I'm gonna just top those a little bit of sesame seeds. You don't have to put the sesame seeds on right away. You can put them on when you're ready to eat, but I'm just getting everything ready so I can just grab and go out of the fridge. So take a look at that. Wow, that is gonna make the perfect lunch all week long. Now I've got my lids here. If you're gonna be like carrying this in your backpack or something to work or school, maybe use a container that has lids that seal just a little bit better than these ones. These are perfect for my fridge at home and for my bag, but like I said, maybe not perfect if you're putting them in a backpack. You want something that seals up a little bit tighter on the ends there. Now look at that meal prep, yum. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this one, just make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below.